There's one other video on this channel. This is the opener, by the way. There's one other video on this channel, and that's for me when I was 16. That was a while ago. I've changed a lot. I've done a lot. But I still feel mostly the same as I did in that video. I think watching it a bit ago, I kind of realized that. This is like a sequel to that video, I guess, except I'm putting stupid-ass gameplay over it, you know? God. So yeah, I guess enjoy it. I'm just going to talk about my life and how I feel. Thanks for finding this channel somehow. And I guess if you recognize my voice or this was sent to you because you're like, oh, hey, isn't this blank? No, you didn't. No, you don't. You don't recognize me. I guess somehow you do find this and it's very unmistakably who you're thinking of. I guess you could text me. I guess you want to check in or whatever. That'd be neat. But for the most part, I wouldn't worry about it. As Conquest from Invincible once said, I am so lonely. But that's a stupid intro meant to bait you in. So I guess real quick, if you're seeing this video, I'm not dead. I'm very much alive. I guess I just need a bit of an outlet. But I guess we'll talk about being alive later. I'm not sure how to start this. It's kind of odd, I guess, starting just talking about yourself full in without, like an intro. But I guess one good little intro is I was recently texting someone I would say is pretty important to me, but they said something. It wasn't even a crazy thought. It was something that I definitely agreed with, but I kind of sent me through like a bit of an odd loop. It was just saying, "Hey, you kind of dry texture." That was it. It's really nothing crazy, but I guess I never realized that I was being like looked at. I guess I don't know. I've just kind of existed. Um, and obviously, I think everyone to agree is kind of existing, but I'm just I'm just here. I have motivations and I have dreams, which is why I haven't killed myself. I have things I want to do, but I lack the motivation to really do some of those things. Obviously, I'm putting this on YouTube publicly, so to a degree, I want fame, but it's well, I guess it's like I have this odd dilemma where it's like I both want to be the center of attention, but I want to be invisible. Like, obviously, I think everyone kind of likes being looked at, seen. And I guess I'm just extra about it, but at the same time, I like just disappearing. But at the same time, I don't know why I like being so alone sometimes. I think it's often a detriment to myself with how alone I want to be. Like right now, there are people downstairs, people that I really enjoy being with. They're just doing stuff. They're having a good old time. People I'd consider friends. Well, and I'm up here talking to myself. I've done that a lot. I've always kind of isolated myself for some reason for another, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm always insistent on being so distant. Like honestly, I'm a fairly like chronically online person, so I have online friends, people that I guess they've heard my voice, they've seen my face, but they've never been able to see me beyond a digital screen. And I guess I've just had like an odd, I guess, relationship with people that are around me, anyone, everyone in my life. I feel so distant too. IRL people, they feel temporary to me. But that's not to say, oh, I prefer having my online Discord friends. Internet friends then feel expendable and replaceable. I do not have a good relationship with anyone. I don't think there's a single person I would say, I have a good relationship with this person. That's not their fault. I think that's me. I think just the conditions that I've endured as a person, the way my mind is now set up, the way I think, I feel, I believe I am, it's caused me to put up just this big old barrier of irony. And I don't think that it's, and I just can't take it down, otherwise they'll see the real me, and that's so embarrassing. And it's not that, I don't want to be real and honest with them because they won't like me. I'm just so distant. And then again, it's also not like a lack of trying. It's not a lack of how I feel about them. I think plenty of people would say, we like you. You're a good person. We come hang. I do get invited to things quite often, quite frequently. A bit less since I kind of, high school ended. I've been far from some of the people that do stuff often. I still have college friends. I have a good amount of college friends. There's a thought I wanted to circle back to that's completely gone from me. The point is, I feel so distant from everyone. My roommate came in as I was recording, so I'd pause for a second. Kind of ruined the flow of things, but we're not going to get angry at him. He's just a person. I was talking about distance. As I was saying earlier, it was like 2 minutes ago for me. Distance. I feel distant from people. Just in my life. I don't know if I got to the point, but I was going to say, my mom called me a bit ago. She calls me pretty frequently. I don't live at home with her right now, but I'm not in a good enough spot to keep doing that. I'll eventually move back in with her. I plan on it. She recently called me just saying like, hey, hope you're doing well. Put a little more money on the credit card. She's always worried about me eating. Another thing I'll probably talk about later. She's always worried about me eating, and I guess she was just like, hey, and then obviously at the end of the call, she said, I love you. Everyone says that to their family. That's not the bad part. And obviously I said it back saying, hey, I was like, yeah, love you too. I guess I talk kind of quickly when I'm referring to my mom, talking to her. But, I said that, and after I ended the call, I kind of realized, as distant as I am from my friends, I feel even more distant from my family. Obviously, I've grown up and I've lived around them my entire life. So I guess I could blame them for, how I came up. I guess I'll go through my life, and I might be able to re-up and reoccur some issues. So I think the first few years of my life, I've just always moved around. It took until, I guess it wasn't even, it was a while ago now at this point. It was 10 years ago that I finally stopped moving around. I'm 19. For a while, half of my life, I just kept on moving. It took until 4th grade for me to, actually be able to just, like, have some people that I could, stay with and be like, hey, these are my friends. These are people that I've been friends with for a while. But as I was saying, kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all of those, I moved to completely different schools, completely different people. And as a sociable kid, I'd obviously keep making friends there. Every school I went to, we talk about, video games. Obviously, I'm a big video game guy. And then they're like, yeah, we're friends, kids, just kids being kids, existing. But oddly enough, whenever I got to 4th grade, it's ended up where I ended up staying. For a little bit, I was hesitant to make friends. I was really like, God, it's kind of crazy. Like, even as a 4th grader, I was kind of just like, I'm just going to lose these friends again. I'm not going to bother making friends for a while. I think I came back to it. It was even just like as a kid then, I kind of had those thoughts saying like, oh, should I bother with this? It was a question to me. It was a question of, should I even try? It might be where kind of some of this stems from, I suppose. But before that, it wasn't like, I was just had a fucked up ass family situation. Damn. I think like most people, my parents aren't together. I think once they may have loved each other. I mean, somehow they had 3 fucking kids with each other. First one born in 2001, last one they had together born in 2008. So they were having kids for a while. just crazy for how much they fucking, I guess, like, hate each other, especially now they're kind of distant and don't really care for each other. But I was just always, like, moving between parents, and my dad tried his best. My mom, I guess she was having her own issues. Especially we were talking about her now, because she's kind of back. Yeah, she kind of just disappeared from my fucking life after, when would it have been? 27? Yeah, fucking, damn, that was a while she disappeared. Yeah, I think one of the last times I really saw her was in, like, 2017 or 2018. And eventually I just accepted I don't have a mom. It's something I came to terms with kind of a while ago. I was just like, she's gone. You know, people come and go in your life. But funnily enough, I guess whenever I needed her most in my life, she somehow did come back, which is crazy to me. My dad was always a working man. He's, blue collar guy. He worked construction jobs since he was like 18. Probably, I'm pretty sure before, he's always a hard working man. He's always valued hard work. He was that for a while. He was always just fucking working for a while. He had a good thing going for a while, which is especially kind of sucks to see now. But I think just kind of that broken down family kind of stopped me from. I mean, it's not even just like child divorce. I was always like moving between my parents, and then eventually I guess I'm kind of think about it. Even back in like third grade, I guess when I started enveloping myself in fucking video games and shit, kind of started like, oh, this is my thing. When I finally got my own like little DS, I think even then I was kind of distant from my own family. Then I'd usually just be focusing working on that or whatever. Now this gets thrown around a lot, but I do think I might just be fucking autistic, which not a bad thing, but I don't like what's really done to me. I'd like to be able to just sit down, focus, and work on something that I'm passionate about. I'd like to just be able to do things, be able to be close to people, be able to talk to someone. Because eventually, back to the childhood life. Eventually, I stopped moving in fourth grade, and before that's where I made what I would say was my first friend. He's a fucking bastard now, but eventually, whenever I was around there, I did make my first friend. Obviously, we bonded over video games, and then I went to third grade with him. I think I would go to my dad's for the weekend, and some of that would be going to the town where he lived in, like for real, lived in when, and I met him there, which is fun to think about. You remember your first friend that you had is kind of a fun thing to do. Obviously, I've had family members, but I've been close with, like, I have a cousin, I'm real close to them. Maybe I'd even consider that my first friend. Once again, video games, yada yada. Bonded over that. Yeah, it seems to only really bond over fucking like common media or hobbies. I do a lot of thinking myself. As I said, I'm alone quite frequently, and I'm gonna level with the mic now. I'm alone quite frequently, so obviously there's a lot of time where I'm just to myself thinking about life, concepts, and all that. So I like to think I'm like emotionally mature in a way. I'm bad at action. So I'm aware that I'm a distant person, but I don't really know what to do about it. I'm aware that I want to make videos, write scripts, and do that, but I barely take action. Is it laziness? I like to think so. I'm gonna go back to talking about my life because I'm kind of I remember a lot of my life. I think despite how bad it was, despite how empty it was, I've always cherished memories. People always talked about, yeah, I really just don't remember much of my childhood, and that scares me. I think my biggest fear is the concept of forgot. I forgot. I have forgotten. I don't remember. I forgot about you. Being forgotten, I think, is my number one fear. I think it's kind of what caused me to layer on all this irony over myself was not wanting to be forgotten. I've always wanted to be the funny guy. I've always wanted to be the cool artsy guy. I've always wanted to be, as I've said earlier, a kind of push and pull between wanting to be the center of attention and being invisible sometimes. Definitely lean towards wanting to be the center of attention, but I'm so bad at communicating with people. All the time I just say the same few phrases. But I try and initiate conversations, I think. But quite frequently I find myself in a group of people, we're talking, doing something, and I feel distant. I think especially now I'm kind of there's one time in my life where I was just kind of chilling, hanging out. I was on a call with some friends. It was late at night. Fucking update to a game we liked happened, but server shut down, so we just couldn't really play it for a bit. We called it a night. We went to bed, and we kind of went their separate ways. And but yeah, as we got off that call, I I took my headset off. I looked down. I pushed my chair back because I have a little rolly chair. And as I stood up, I felt distant from my own body. I felt like I was literally watching myself. And I looked at my hands. I touched my face. I grabbed the back of my head because it felt like somehow I was pushed back. It felt physically, I felt the things my hands felt. Everything was fine, but I was looking at my body somehow. I really don't know what that was. This is over in high school. And honestly, part of me does think I fucking ate a fucking weed brownie at my dad's, but it tasted fine, I think. I don't remember. Kind of back to the life story. Everything was fine in my life until eventually a little bit over into middle school. My dad kind of moved out from the girl he was with, who I kept going to every weekend. Fourth grade, I moved over with my dad and his girlfriend. I fucking proposed to her, never actually married. He has a piss poor habit of doing that. After I go through my life, I would probably talk about my dad. There's a specific moment I'm wanting to hit. 7th to 8th grade, those are fine times. But 8th grade to freshman year, I could feel my dad kind of started to slip as a person. He was always a hardworking man. Something happened. Eventually, he just kind of fell back into piss poor habits, I think. He, nothing too bad, but he got with this random fucking drug addict ass woman. He's still fucking with her to this day. Attachment issues, I think. But he got with her. He was still working fine. He was still doing, taking care of his kids well. I think a certain event happened. I'm going to talk about that. That kind of caused, this. I said it to get harder. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't anyone's fault. But eventually something happened, and he slowly started slipping. He eventually stopped going to his main union job and started doing these odd, shitty side jobs. I don't know why. I think he said he wanted to have, I guess like unemployment or whatever from being off the job, but from what I remember, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like something they do, because he still did, I guess, like, not his main union job, and he just started slipping. Obviously, I oftentimes, this was about whenever my sister came in, she didn't come in, she fucking left. is about the time that she just left, and I think that's when I started kind of finally feeling alone. I kind of realized, oh, this situation is temporary. All of this is temporary. Whenever my sister finally vanished, and it kind of reminds me, I think, sometime in middle school, I went to my aunt's house, as I oftentimes would during the summer, but everyone was working. My cousins, they're a decent bit older than me, but everyone was working, and it was just me sitting there on the couch, and it was late at night, and I realized, oh, once again, I've realized time is moving. This is temporary. Temporary. That's kind of what's been haunting me. It's temporary. My life is temporary. My existence is temporary. The people around me are temporary. Everything's temporary. The pain, the happiness, the current layer of skin that's on my hand, the drink in my cup, the food in my fridge, it's all temporary. Life's a cycle, and I think I'm falling in a bad cycle right now. But after my sister left, I think that's kind of special when my dad got bad for him. Because he left his girlfriend at the same time, but I'm not good with people. So it was just me, my dad, my brother. My brother's very autistic. He's a nonverbal autistic, basically. So, and I guess I was aware of this fact, and I made attempts, but it wasn't good enough. Definitely wasn't good enough. He eventually got back with her. I guess it's when I fucking had to face the thunder. Face that, hey, you're shitty to fucking talk to, dude. No one said that to me, but it's just kind of something I realized. I'm a distant person. I think middle school is about when I finally truly just realized, oh, you are terrible at this, dude. You cannot talk with people for shit. But I never did anything about it. I never made attempts to do anything about it. And I don't know why. Yeah, eventually it was just me and my dad for a bit, and obviously his girlfriend came back. And I think soon after, this is my sophomore year of high school, I think all this happened where everything started falling down. I think life kind of hit me finally. I think it's kind of whenever I pinpointed. That year my life was never, I finally got punched in the stomach by life, and I was like, okay, yep, this is all real. I'm going to stop slacking off. But I never did. Oddly enough, I feel like even though I got that huge punch in the face, punch in the stomach, I got punched in the stomach so hard that I keeled over, and I coughed up, and I threw up a little what was in my stomach at that time. I never locked in. I think that's kind of when I just became more aware as a person, and I started doing more. I started investing more into my hobbies, I guess. Because yeah, after that year of high school ended, I had that summer, and it was just so boring. For countless times, the internet would just be shut off, and it's the modern age, and I'm a distant person, so I had nothing almost. I was alone most of the time. All my friends were usually busy or doing shit. And I also just didn't care that closely about me. So it's a very lonely time where I just kind of sat to myself. Until the end of the summer, or halfway through, my dad said, hey, we're losing the house. Pack up all your shit. Then I just kind of sat at my grandparents. They lived, I think, an hour away. So for the rest of the summer, I tried figuring out what to do, where to go. Because despite how distant I was, I still cared about the people. I think that's kind of one thing I've going for me. I'm very distant, and as much as I am just terrible at talking with people, I still care. I can't. It's hard for me to really form bonds with people. Even my best friend, separate from the first friend who I'm about to reference again. I'm distant. You know, as I said, I'm referencing the first friend. I lived with him for 6 months, first year of high school. Not a year, first year of that semester. Eventually, I moved in with my cousins, and you know what's crazy? This was my junior year of high school, and I somehow just never got a job, and it took until the last semester of high school for me to get a fucking car and just drive. I'm like a big fucking driver's license. Despite all the shit that's happened to me, despite nearly going homeless, nearly losing everything, I never just locked the fuck in. I'm bad at socializing. I'm bad at locking in. By locking in, I mean, I guess I've had most of my outs handed to me. Eventually, whenever I lost the house, that's somehow, oddly enough, when my mom came back, and she's been kind of helping me out there a lot financially and all that. But I just never locked in. I've had jobs, but that wasn't until freshman year of fucking college. Jesus Christ. I think I tried getting some earlier, but there is no luck with that. So yeah, I can blame things. I can blame the fact that I'm probably autistic. I might have ADHD or something that caused me to not be able to just sit down and stay with the task or whatever. But ultimately, the fact is, I don't know. And I'm tempted to say, and that's okay. It's okay to not know, because oftentimes little thing I like doing is saying bad thing happens, bad thing is happening, and that's okay. I think it's nice for people to hear that it's okay, but I guess there's a phrase I used a while ago called the human experience. You know what it is to go through your trials, go through your tribulations, meet people, be with people, love people, do all that. And I've always felt so distant from that. One thing that I especially mean is kind of back to that junior year of high school, whenever I was second half of that year when I was living with my cousin. I made a promise to myself way before. I said, hey, if someone likes me, I'll date them. And eventually I did catch wind that someone liked me. They weren't subtle about it at all. And we dated a bit, and I think that was another time that I realized I am just so distant. Very sorry for what I did to them. I guess they're somehow hearing this. I'll say, yep, sorry about that. Whoops. That was on me. I was trying to make myself feel human. I was trying to feel something, trying to feel close to someone. Terrible thing. But a friend that I met in middle school, who I'm still with now. I mean, I'm still around him. We're still very close. We live very close proximity to each other. But even him, my friend that I've had since middle school, I've been there thick and thin. He's told me a lot. I just feel distant. I feel like there's always one barrier between me and someone else, between me and other people, and I don't know how to fix that. I really don't know how to deal with that. I think over the course of my life, I've kind of become just neutral in most social circumstances. I'm scared to take risks. I'm scared to be like go all in on like saying something, doing something, being something, other than being a fucking ironic fool. I'm just so neutral. Like another time after there's a girl. Oh, I was trying to be gender anonymous there. Keep a little anonymity with who's who and what's what. But and I do truly believe that I like this person a lot. But once again, we're back at distance. Somehow there's a little distance. It's I'm pretty sure they like me back and all that, but there's just a distance. That was the person that said earlier, hey, you're kind of a dry texture, and kind of caused me to re-go back down this spiral. I go down this whole distance spiral many times. I believe there's been a few friends I've told, my whole, just all this stuff, just being like, I feel so distant, I feel so nothing, I feel empty almost. And I feel stupid, dumb, and edgy to say, but I just, nothing feels real. And I guess long ago, if I didn't have these selfish dreams of having fame, being remembered after I die, because that's what drives me. Because death is obviously, it's a scary thing. And my whole life I've always thought about it. When I was a young kid and I realized, oh damn, I'm gonna die. This is temporary. This ain't happening forever. The second that I realized that thought, I've been thinking about death nearly every single day. It's terrible. I don't like doing that. There's a lot of stuff I don't like doing, but guess I have to do it anyways. Completely lost my train of thought, but death, yeah. The whole point of my life is just to be remembered. I'm gonna do some shit just to be remembered. Right now, it's trying to get internet fame. Obviously, I have another YouTube channel at this one that's just doing pretty well. Once again, it's that case of, hey, I'm passionate about this thing. I want to do this thing. I want this. I really want this. I want to get this. I want this to happen. But I for some reason, it's so hard to bring myself to work, bring myself to do something, bring myself to stand up, go over to the iron, and start working at it. I don't know why. Maybe I should talk to a therapist instead of just, talking on a fucking YouTube video. Maybe, but kind of death scares me. And we're going to go to religion now. As a young kid, through a lot of that time, I was always raised Christian. It was like, oh, we're going to take you to church. Something my dad made me do for a little bit. I think eventually I was like, hey, I don't really want to do all this. Can I stop doing this? I don't know if I ever said that. I think there's always that fear that, I guess they'd be super angry at me. I've always hated people being angry at me. I'll talk about that later. It's another thing I kind of realized recently. I'm scared of anger. I think that's part of what's caused my neutrality. Yeah. That definitely comes back to, early childhood stuff. My parents were always fighting and yelling. I guess that's something that fucking terrified me. I guess it's traumatized me to never want anyone to be angry even remotely to me again. For what I was talking about earlier, death. I'm just gonna say the little story real quick. Religion. That's what we were on religion. So I've always kind of been, forced to go to church. My dad was a very Christian man. I've been fucking baptized, but I can't bring myself to believe in a God. There's many reasons. I can say all kinds of stuff. I can say the fact that, hey, if there's really a God, why would he let people just shoot up schools, shoot up churches, kill many innocent people for no reason without stopping, putting his foot down? Why would a willing, nice God cause stuff to happen? And there's also the fact that we are one tiny speck in a massive universe. All that, dude, why does life matter? We just on a rock. We're just a bunch of floating in a rocket space, dude. That whole stupid thing, I guess. But I guess my point is, we're just one small part of a big universe. So there's other three situations. One, there's a God. He's caring and loving. But we're just such a small, insignificant part of this universe that he doesn't care. Why would he care about us on this one little planet, Then there's the point that maybe there is a God, and he's just a cruel bastard that lets things happen, and oftentimes will enforce, the shitty shit from happening. I think there's a lot of situations with a God, but I don't believe there could be a willing, a kind God in any shape or form. Sorry, I opened my phone. Said I wouldn't. Anyways, wasn't anything bad. Just a fucking who left the oven on text. All this to say, even as a young kid, I never really believed there's a God. I just found the idea too ridiculous and absurd for a variety of reasons. Yada yada, big universe, yada yada. But there's another time my dad died. He didn't stay dead, which is the crazy part. His heart stopped for, I don't know if it was a few seconds or a few minutes, but either way, the man was dead. If he was alone that night, he would have stayed dead. Obviously, his thing was fucking his drug issues I was talking about earlier. Fucker, I found a fucking plate full of white powder in his room. There's no way in hell the fucker wasn't doing some shit. But regardless, he died for a little bit. His heart just stopped working. If he wasn't with other people at that time, or he's with some stupid idiot dumbasses, even bigger stupid idiots and dumbasses, he'd be in the ground right now, or he'd be in an urn that my sister would hold in her room. I say my sister because I don't think I was close enough to the man to warrant me getting his ashes. The sister was much closer, but anyways, I accidentally hit my space key trying to wipe something off of it, so I paused the recording. He died for a little bit. My dad was dead. There was a few minutes, there was a little bit in my life where I said, my dad's dead. I could say that. I guess I'll get to say it later. Killer. Anyways, he was dead. You know, I didn't have a dad for a bit. But the thing he told me, that kind of, I guess, really stuck with me, because obviously I always thought about death and all that, so I was kind of curious. He tells me a lot of stories. A lot of people just tell me stories. I like listening, but I never have my own to share. But when he died, he says there was nothing. He said when the lights went down, the sun had set, and everything was still in the night, he said there's nothing. It's not that he remembers nothing. It's not that he didn't suddenly go from being alive to alive again. It's almost that there's nothing. There wasn't a white light or anything. I think he briefly mentioned there being like a tiny something, but he just said there wasn't anything there. You know, he died. He just kind of was dead. You know, he didn't get greeted by anything. But I guess you could say, oh, well, he didn't like fully die. It wasn't part of God's plan. But it was part of his plan. But that just kind of stuck with me. You know, there's nothing after death, so I need to make the time that I have here count. And to truly make the time count, to me, I believe I should make sure I'm remembered. And so I guess it's part of where my greed for fame has come from, my desire to be witnessed, be remembered. You know, after I either put a bolt in my brain, a sickness stops my heart, or I put a knife into my eyes, I want to be remembered, you know. It's also why I haven't killed myself yet. I've had that dream of being remembered, because if I just kill myself, I'll just be another case, I'll just be another number. Maybe I'll be someone's childhood, you know, pal for a bit. Maybe causing some people around me to be like, for the rest of their lives, just kind of be dreading and be like, oh man, remember. But maybe I wouldn't leave that big of an impact, you know. There's always that thought in the back of your head. Kind of, yes, this would be the case, but what if? I can't say for sure. I'd like to think I left a big enough impact on some people for me to be coached along in their minds. So yeah, I'm distant to everyone. And if you're one of those ones that I was talking about, well, sorry. I want to say I'm trying my best, but I guess anytime I isn't going to do so much. You can try as hard as you want, but ultimately, I guess I could go to therapy maybe, but I don't know what to do. It's just where I'm at with life. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I want to do. So let's maybe take a break. There's also been this common thought. I often joke about this. One thing I often do, I put my real thoughts into a joke, into a jest. You know, haha, isn't that a funny, ridiculous thing to do? But one thing I've recently just always been brought up is like, dude, I could just get in my car and I could just drive somewhere else. I could start again. There's always been that desire, that want to just start again. I don't know why. There's always just been that like little voice in the back of my head saying, oh, but what if you just started over? I think to me it's also part of the draw of potentially killing myself has been like, oh, what if after the knife goes through my chest, what if I get to start a new life? What if there's reincarnation? I think it'd be pretty cool. I guess if I ever got confirmation of it, I might do it. A little restart, you know, run it back real quick. I know, I understand it now. Could be cool. but not for a little bit. Either way, just to say, I'm not killing myself 100%. I'm going to stay alive. I have things I want to see, things I want to write out. I want to live a long life. I want to see the wrinkles grow on my face. I want all that to happen. But for now, I'm just kind of lost. I'm lost, but there's still people I like to see, even if I'm distant from these people. I still like seeing them. Like the person I said I like, even though I'm distant from you, I like seeing you a lot. Really, I've never, because of this distance, I guess I've never really felt the idea of love. I've had my family. I've been close to them. They're my family and all that. But I guess I've never really loved them. I've never had someone that I've like cared about